Environment Committee of the new year, and obviously wish everybody a happy new year. I'll just ask Karen or pass over to Karen to take the roll call and then read out the notice. So, Karen, if you'd like to take the roll.
Thank you, Chair, and Happy New Year, members. To all members of the Environment and Regeneration Committee, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Environment and Regeneration Committee to be held on Wednesday, the 12th of January 2022 at 4 p.m. And I'll take the roll call. Alderman Morris Devaney.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Derek Hussey.
Aye, here, online.
Thank you. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman David Ramsey.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor John Boyle.
Afternoon. Here.
Thank you. Councillor Angela Dobbins.
Here, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Edwards.
Sure, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Rachel Ferguson.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Sure, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Kelly.
Sure, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Emma McGinley.
Sure, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Ray McHugh.
Yeah.
Councillor Maeve O'Neill.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. And Councillor Brian Tierney.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Everyone's here. And Chair, will I do the statement for broadcasting?
Yes, go ahead, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone who is in remote attendance that this meeting will be broadcast live via the Council's YouTube channel and will be available for viewing by the public and media. The broadcast will also be available for repeated viewing at a later date. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with Council protocol. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. By participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of these images for broadcast or training purposes and for the purposes of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. And a copy of the Council's privacy notice is found on the Council's website. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Karen. Members, item 4 is declarations of interest. If there's any member who wishes to declare an interest, you can do it now, or else put it in the chat box as we go along. And could I also ask members just to reference what item on the agenda the interest relates to. Item 5, members, is chairperson's business. I don't have anything myself, but I have been contacted by a couple of councillors. First, I have Alderman Kerrigan. Go ahead, Keith.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Chair, just a very brief one here, Chair, and it's just asking for a wee report, or not a report, sorry, a presentation to be brought forward to the next available E&R committee meeting, and it's a recycle for KC Northern Ireland as a group. And I do know that there are a number of the members of the general public within the city, and I know there's representatives in the Castleberg and the Derg DA who take in some recycling. That's KC, it's Kicks Count, and it is a charity which is based there, and it's a UK-wide charity, but there is more people that are dealing in Northern Ireland with it, and they are gathering up bits and pieces of materials which we currently send to landfill, what we would send in the black bin. But there's a lot of they will take a lot of the various, the bread packets, and there's various other bits and pieces that we currently, from my information, are not recycling, but they are recycling, and they spend a bit of time and they raise money, and then this money then goes towards to try to raise awareness in regards to stillbirths. So I thought it was a worthwhile thing, and I couldn't just see where else to bring it in, Chair. So I was just looking to bring it forward as a proposal that we would invite them in and see what we can do to assist them. Because, as I say, if there's a potential, we could raise awareness. It could help the charity and could help ones in regards to stillbirths, and it could also, Chair, hopefully maybe potential to reduce the amount that we are putting into our black bins. So I just put this, I just have it typed up here, Chair, and I'll just send it through to you. to give a report. Hold on.
Okay.
There we go, Chair. I'll propose that if that's in order, Chair.
Yeah, so Alderman, I don't see any problem with that, and I see Councillor O'Neill has seconded that. Karen, would you like to comment on that, just about maybe availability of?
Yeah, Chair, more than happy to do that, and we will approach the group, invite them to the next available committee. We would potentially have space in February, and there's a few groups on after that, but we will liaise with them accordingly and bring them to committee as soon as we possibly can. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Karen, thanks for that. Alderman Devaney, you had also contacted me. Do you still wish to raise that particular issue?
I do, Chair, and I'll tell you why, Chair. This was an issue that I raised yesterday at Business and Culture, and it was raised under confidential. And I think it's important to get it out in the public domain there, what the proposal was. And Chair, I spoke to Karen earlier on today, and she assured me that it was Business and Culture business. But Chair, it was only just for a report to come back, and I said yes, as I said yesterday, to the relevant committee, and to bring back a report in relation to our council-owned car parks about the disabled parking. You know, I believe that as far as charging disabled drivers for parking, I think what I was asking for was a report to come back, and it will be Business and Culture, as I know now, just for an update on what criteria would be and what costings would be if we were to allow free car parking within our council car parks for those with disabilities, to encourage them to come into our towns, you know, like Strabane and the London area and areas like that there, to shop and do their business. And look at supporting those with disabilities, Chair. And look, as I say, it's on a report that went back into the Business and Culture meeting. And I thought it was important just to raise it today, just in the public forum, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. I think you're right enough. Business and Culture is the appropriate committee. I think Environment Regeneration is mainly concerned with maybe just the maintenance of car parks. So, but you've raised it now anyway, so unless Karen has anything to add to it.
No, Chair, I will bring that to the attention of the Director of Business and Culture, just to ensure that they have noted that at the committee yesterday, and it will be brought back to Business and Culture. Thank you.
Okay. Item 6, members, is matters arising, or sorry, the minutes. Yeah, matters arising from the open minutes of our previous meeting. I'll take them now, pages 1 to 18. If any member has a matters arising, can indicate. A few indicated here. Alderman Hussey, go ahead. Sorry, Derek, that was in relation to the previous item, was it?
It was. I'm happy to leave it, Chair. But,
you sure? You can come on now if you wish.
Well, it was just a comment by yourself there that E&R relative to maintenance of car parks, and indeed I had met with the director of B&C, reference a couple of the car parks in Castleberg, and there were suggested works. So when that report comes back, that has been talked about by Alderman Devaney, perhaps we can have an update on any proposed works for the upgrading of the parks that I had visited with the B&C director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Karen, do you wish to comment on that?
Yep, Chair, I do know that our Business and Culture team are liaising closely to ensure that necessary works are funded and carried out as quickly as possible, but certainly I will raise that issue as well and ask that it's included in either the same or a separate report back to committee. Thank you, Chair.
Very much appreciated, Chair. Thank you, Karen.
Okay. Councillor O'Neill, under matters arising.
Thanks, Chair. And it's just with regards to the rights of nature, and it's you know, this is progressing really well, like in our council, in terms of the work that's being done here, but also in other councils. It's this, you know, other councils have recognised rights of nature and are progressing forward with similar motions. that have been adopted in their areas. And I just of note, Donegal County Council, I'd mentioned this at the last meeting in December, have become the first council in the south to recognise rights of nature, and again with a very similar motion to the one that we passed. And also just after we had passed our own in June, Fermanagh and Omagh District Council also recognised rights of nature. And it just occurred to me, we have a shared common bioregion in the northwest, and we work collaboratively across councils and across borders when it comes to economic developments and different various strategies. And I thought, given that this is the beginnings of this rights of nature work, it might be a good time to convene a meeting and collaborate and talk with Donegal County Council and Fermanagh and Omagh District Council on how we can work together as a common bioregion in progressing the rights of nature work, because I think we can only work more efficiently and work I think the work can be strengthened when we're collaborating across councils. So I just wanted to propose that, Chair, if that's okay. I'll just put that proposal in the chat box here. And I've included, just it might be helpful, there's an all-island body called Environmental Justice Network Ireland, who they have an all-Ireland mandate and to promote environmental policy across Ireland, and are doing work on rights of nature. So I thought they might be the best body with regard to that to contribute to such a meeting in a way. So so I've included them within that proposal.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor O'Neill, and you have it in the chat box there. I have Councillor Tierney indicating to speak on this same issue. Go ahead, Brian.
Chair, thank you, and thanks to Maeve for raising this issue. I'd be happy to second her proposal. I think we all know that the rights of nature doesn't stop at the boundary of this council district, so it is important that we all do work collaboratively with our neighbouring councils, may they be here in the north or in Donegal. So on behalf of the SLP, we're happy to second it, and we'll be happy to be involved in any further meetings to discuss how we can work in partnership with our neighbouring councils. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Brian. Member.
Chair, could I just clarify first of all, in terms of members, and obviously you are aware we have got upcoming workshops in terms of the rights of nature, which will be obviously publicly accessible. In terms of a meeting with the district councils, would you envisage, members, that would be our council officers, or would you want us to organise that for elected members? We welcome a steer on that, please, Chair.
Maybe Councillor O'Neill, could hear your thoughts on that.
Could it be a combination, Karen?
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah. So, including elected members, certainly we can convene a meeting if members of the committee approve that. That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, members. The proposal has been submitted to the chat box there. It has been seconded by Councillor Tierney. I'm not sensing any opposition to the proposal, members, so can we take that as unanimous? I think so. So our next indicated speaker is Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to maybe piggyback on this item, the Christmas tree item at ER 358 minute on page 13, to say congratulations to the Directorate and all the staff who were involved in the Christmas illuminations over the 21-22 Christmas season. I think I've had a lot of very positive feedback, particularly in relation to the trees in Strabane, but also in relation to the street lamp illuminations. And just on that point, I know that in terms of the sweep up exercise, that still a couple of standing, or at least one was additional Christmas illuminations for the. Yeah. Can you hear me, Chair?
You're kind of breaking up there, Dan. So we are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, Chair?
Yep. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. Just in relation to the sweep up exercise, then, Chair, of the village illuminations. I know there was one village in Glenmornan which was hoping to get additional features over the Christmas period, but unfortunately it wasn't able to be accommodated within this year's budget. And I'm just wondering if that's going to be accommodated within the, can that be accommodated within the 22-23 Christmas season, and is there any provision being made within the rates for that?
Okay, I'll pass that over to Karen. Thanks,
Yeah.
Councillor.
And Chair, certainly we will consider that and put that forward to members in terms of next year's illuminations for Christmas. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Dobbins is looking on the same issue. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, Chair, can I just echo the sentiments there of the previous speaker? Just to say congratulations to Connor Canning and the whole team behind that. The illuminations were fantastic throughout the city, but at this present time and where we were sitting and COVID on the rise again just before Christmas, I think it was very much welcomed on the outskirts of the city, and I'm personally not talking about Strabane. I'm talking about in this city itself, on the periphery of the city, on the borders, those tiny pockets of villages that had lights and a Christmas tree. It was so very much welcomed and heartwarming. So a big, huge congratulations to the whole team. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Angela, and I'm sure those sentiments are shared by the entire committee. Councillor Kelly, are you happy enough then with that response?
Thanks, Chair. I look forward to seeing that in due course. Thank you.
Okay. Next indicated speaker is Alderman Ramsey under accuracy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, ER 34721. It's with reference to my request of an update with Cluny Estate, not Cluny Road flooding. Just Cluny Estate flooding.
Okay.
Just that be amended.
We can get that amended, Alderman.
Thank you.
Alderman Kerrigan, also on accuracy, 357/21.
Chair, just very briefly, it's only just on the list of the list of the roads. I had raised an issue in regards to Eden Ray Road, and the Eden Ray Road still seems to be on as the proposal. You know, whereby the information wasn't provided at the last meeting for the Eden Ray Road. So I thought the rest of it was approved with the exception of Eden Ray, but the proposal seems to still hold Eden Ray in it. So just a clarification on that one, Chair. That's all it is.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Chair, we'll check that out and amend accordingly. Thank you.
Alderman Devaney, I see you have on their same issue. Is that pertaining to the Councillor Kelly's issue, was it?
It was, Chair, and look, I would just like to record our thanks to the teams that were out and put up the Christmas trees and the Christmas illuminations. They were wonderful all over the place, so they were really, really good effort the year, and it really lifted the spirit of people out of a difficult time with COVID and stuff like that. But Chair, I think we should just come in here and condemn, and I know in round the Guildhall, the lovely tree that they have there, and at the Guildhall. And I think it'd be appropriate, Chair, that we must condemn the vandalism that was carried out to the Christmas tree and ornaments and other stuff and around the tree. And it's just to put on our record that we would totally condemn that type of activity. And I know our officers have done a really, really good job sweeping up after the vandalism. And I know our mayor was on media condemning it as well. But I think just here, just to have it in the minutes, that thanks to everyone, but we condemn the activity of some who thought it to go out and damage some of the Christmas trees and the ornaments. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, absolutely, Alderman, and we could also include, unfortunately, Castledare Christmas decorations also were vandalised.
Yep.
But I'm sure everybody reiterates your sentiments. Alderman Hussey, you've raised a number of issues there that you'd like to.
I'll be extremely brief, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. 347 was the report. And within that, I had raised the issue of disappointment, referenced the 20 mile per hour scheme at the following schools: Kiln Primary, Castledare High, and St Eugenians in Victoria Bridge. I noticed that some other councillors agreed with the concerns on that. So my first one on that would be a simple proposal that council would write to road service and the minister, urging that these be included on the next scheme, the next phase of the 20 mile per hour at schools. I don't know if I can have a seconder for it. So do you want to take that one first, Chair?
Yes, Alderman, and Alderman Kerrigan has seconded it there. Members, I don't see any issue with that unless any member wishes to raise anything. I think we can take that as unanimous support. Derek, if you don't mind, if you could just put it into the chat box for the sake of our admin.
Do you want me to do that now, or go ahead with the others and then put it in?
No, you can put it in when you're finished.
That's great, thanks. The next one is 349, Chair, and it's the request for a bus stop in within the village in Ardstraw. Is there any update from officers or report on the feasibility of that yet? Or I know it was the Christmas period, but will that be forthcoming?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Members, we've passed that on to the relevant officer and we'll come back to you as soon as we possibly can.
I appreciate that. Third one, 358, is the Christmas illuminations, and I can only reiterate the praise that other members have given to officers and indeed the contractors who were out and involved in the erection of our Christmas illuminations. Similarly, as you have already done yourself, Chair, I will be critical vandalism which occurred, and we're mindful, of course, of vandalism that occurred in our own town in Castledare. It's very hard to understand the mindset of somebody who would undertake such actions. And finally, then on the same point, Councillor Kelly referred there to some issues within some of our smaller communities where they had expected perhaps an uplift or extra lighting to be included. It wasn't. But I think if we start early and engage with these communities, I know that there was disappointment in several of the smaller communities. The light schemes were welcome, but there was disappointment at the amount of lights, and there was a feeling that there could have been more lights installed. So I've been mindful of, I've mentioned before, their kiln in this respect. And when I looked at what had been done, yes, what was there was good, but there were areas at the either end of the string of illuminations that were up that could do with a couple of extra lights would solve the issue. So I'd agree with Councillor Kelly there. Liaison with the community groups in these smaller settlements as to what might be needed. I'm not sure, I think it's about 12 lights or something was in Kiln. And when you take on board Sion Mills, another community in the Derg area, there's something like 66 lights along it, albeit it's along a main thoroughfare, along the essentially the A5. But I've been mindful that there are needs in our outlying communities, and as has been pointed out, these communities have their celebrations within their communities, and at this time of COVID, etc., it's what's been encouraged, for people to remain in their own areas, and that's what we want to see. So I'm agreeing with that and hoping that officers will, over time, engage with the communities and find out, a couple of extra lights can make a heck of a difference in some of our small communities, and would be welcomed if that can be possible. I'll just leave that as a comment, Chair. I don't think Karen needs to come back on that. I'm sure that it will be picked up on.
Chair,
oh,
it
sorry.
might just bring in Connor and to just update members on that. And members, we do the best we can. It's not an easy job, but Connor, do you want to maybe comment on that?
Yeah, I suppose just to say on behalf of the team, thanks for the positive comments and feedback. It certainly is a team effort, both inside the council and with our external contractors, and we couldn't do it without that. So we'll certainly pass your comments on. We do have a limited budget, and we strive to stretch that as far as we can. And we've looked at different innovative ways every year of trying to enhance and improve the eliminations right across the city and district. So certainly I'll take on board the comments in terms of the areas mentioned today. It would be useful, without opening the floodgates, if there are others there, that maybe those could be sent on at an early stage, as members have said. We need to be considering these now at this time of year, as opposed to a few weeks before Christmas, where it becomes impossible nearly to get the contractors and or the equipment to take it forward. So look, we'll certainly have a look at those areas that have been brought to our attention today, and I'll engage with members and communities as we move forward. And again, thanks for the comments, members.
Thanks for that.
Chair, I appreciate that. And I'm also mindful, of course, that their adaptations need to be made to street lighting standards to accommodate illuminations when they go. And this is costly. My final one was in the glyphosate, and I was going to ask when the workshop. Up my iPad there. I think that workshop's on the 4th of February, so no further comment on that. Thank you, Chair, for your.
Okay, Alderman. Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you for letting me in, and I'll apologise in advance because this may seem a bit like a pedantic point to raise under this particular minute, but you will see from ER 353/21 at the last meeting I asked committee members to join with me in condemning the protests that were taking place outside schools in our district that very day. The next paragraph, Chair, says that the Chair expressed the opinion that the above issue was discussed at the previous meeting, and therefore no further input from members was required today. And while I appreciate that it may be down to the way that you read this particular minute, I would like the minute to be very clear that the Chair expressed the committee's collective condemnation and thought that no further input from members was required, because it doesn't actually say that this committee condemned those protests. And I think it was clear at that meeting, through yourself, Chairman, that we did, but it doesn't reflect that in the minutes, and I think it's important that it does reflect that in the minutes. And as I say, I appreciate it's a bit of a pedantic point, but given the severity of those particular protests, I think it's important that the minutes reflect the views of the committee at that time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Tierney, and a fair point. And I'm sure the minute can be amended to reflect that.
Thank you, Chair.
Members have no further indicated speakers on this particular item, so I'm going to move now to item 7, which is the DERA Green Growth Strategy Equality Impact Assessment Consultation. I think, Karen, you're taking this.
Yeah, Chair, I will take this report, and members, this is to advise members and to seek your approval on the submission of our response to the DERA Green Growth Strategy Equality Impact Assessment Consultation. Members, you will recall the report submitted at the December committee detailing Council's response to the strategy consultation exercise. And members had asked that additional commentary be included in the response, and the document has been updated to reflect this. Members' submissions are due on the 22nd of February, and members, we are asking you to endorse and support the attached response, and happy to take any questions or comments that members have in relation to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Karen. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Karen. I think there's some really good stuff in the response, particularly with regards to a just transition. As we, in terms of green growth, I think there's a few things that we can mention. in it that that I didn't read in there. I suppose when it comes to inequality, and I know the Just Transition captures some of this, but to expand on the the massive inequality of wealth inequality in our society and poverty, given that pollution and poor environmental decisions and hazards impact poorer communities worst. And I think if we could expand that point beyond the Just Transition to incorporate that, and I think to expand on that, we need to talk about how citizens have more of a democratic say in planning decisions which might have a detrimental impact on their local environment, and green growth still has that potential, and that would be adherence to the Aarhus Convention, which says that there must be genuine participation of the public in the planning stage. But in addition to that, I think we can include within our response to the equality screening of the green growth strategy is looking at equal rights of appeal, or it's officially third party right of appeal in planning decisions. So what this does, it gives more say for communities, and particularly communities who are most impacted by pollution and by decisions that might impact the environment. And then my last contribution to the equality screening for this, and again, I know our equality legislation is Section 75 and it covers certain groups, but again, I think within this consultation we have the opportunity to address the limitations of the legislation, and I think here we could include rights of nature within equality screening for the green growth strategy, and just to have a short paragraph to say this goes beyond current legislation in the north, but I think as we look at green growth, we need to think about rights of nature as well. And I think it's important to think about this with regards to a previous one of their last strategies in terms of growth, the Growing for Growth strategy, because the impact of that in terms of the massive ammonia levels. Like in the north here, we have 88% of our total land area receives ammonia concentrations above the critical level. That impact the critical levels supposed to protect keystone species that are vital to ecosystems. So in terms of looking at rights of nature and a green growth strategy, we also just need to be cognizant of all of those development impacts. So I can maybe write some. I don't know what's the most helpful way, Karen, to give that feedback and input, but I can write it down, or if you want to maybe just summarize, or if members are in agreement with those inputs. Thanks.
Chair, are you happy if I come in there?
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
I know that there are other members that might want to speak. I think perhaps members, it would be helpful if members could send me in any comments that they have, and perhaps we can look to update the document accordingly in time for the submission date. As you can see, members, it's the 22nd of or the 23rd of February, so we could bring this report back to ENR if necessary. If any members would like something else included, then perhaps we can do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. Councillor O'Neill, are you content to forward your comments there to Karen?
Yes, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Kelly?
Yeah, Chair, it's the same issue, but I can just forward these. It's in relation to just additional comments that I would like to see maybe considered for incorporation within the Council's corporate response, particularly in relation to renewable energy. And members will be aware from maybe 10 or 12 years ago, the big sales pitch for renewable energy was that it was two-pronged. Some people have heard me talk about this before. One was green energy, that it would supply green energy, but the other important factor, which is never discussed now, is that it would address fuel poverty. And I think it's important that in our assessment that we highlight the fact that renewable energy, particularly the costs of renewable energy, still seem to be index linked to fossil fuels. So when electricity prices just rocket, and we have some of the most expensive electricity prices in Europe, there doesn't seem to be any rationale for it whenever we have such a high percentage of our electricity being produced from renewable sources, in particular from wind. And I don't understand that, and I think it's something that needs to be incorporated within our response. Also, in terms of mitigation, I think one of the things I think that we need to maybe highlight, or just highlight a little bit more, is that in terms of mitigation, I'm just looking at page 21, in the rush to net zero carbon emissions, I think it will be important that we don't make the same mistakes as previously, where the knock-on effects of poorly sited infrastructure, and I'm thinking in particular of wind turbines on boglands and peatlands, can result in significant depletion of carbon storage, as well as flooding downstream from depleted capacity for upstream water storage during extreme weather events. And I think that picks up on Councillor O'Neill's point around for planning decisions. But I think there does seem to be a disconnect between the various government departments, and I appreciate there's a DERA consultation, and they have a strong position in relation to boglands and peatlands, but other departments, in particular DFI, don't have that strong position and will allow and permit industrial infrastructure on these very important sites. And I think that's something that just needs to be highlighted. I will submit that to Karen before the end of the week. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Kelly. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Chair, no, I think it's, I will contact Karen as well. No, I just had slight wee concern because sometimes we can go down a line and try and do a thing, and we're thinking this is a good idea, and there can always be implications on it. And it was just a few comments there, I suppose, that Councillor O'Neill was touching on, where it was coming in. Every planning application has an effect on the nature, and it's just every dwelling house, should that be built in the countryside, or built anywhere at all, is going to have an effect. And if we're potentially trying to open a thing up that people can object afterwards, it could cause these things very, very difficult, for individuals and the role of the planning committee and various things. But maybe I have picked up Councillor O'Neill incorrectly there. So as I say, I'll go back to Karen with a few points in this, and I'll wait to see the submission for, as Karen has stated, it'll not be submitted until after the next DNR meeting. So that's grand. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Alderman, and any other member who wishes to make any or contribute any comments to it, you can forward it, or you can forward them on to Karen. So members, there's no further indicated speaker on that item, so we'll move now to item 8, which is street naming and property numbering, and request.
Yeah, I'll take that as well, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. And members, this is to seek members' consent to name new developments at Alder Road, Ballynagard, and Beachmount Road, Strabane. And members, the application names put forward are Woodlands Avenue and Beachmount Village, which both meet our current policy. And therefore we seek members' approval for the adoption of the names Woodland Avenue and Beachmount Village. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. I see Councillor Kelly has proposed that. Alderman Devaney seconded it. And Councillor Boyle, you wish to speak to it? Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Rory. It's not specifically in relation to, well, I suppose it is and it isn't, Chair, to be honest with you, in the sense that each time I see the proposals coming forward for new developments and the naming of new developments, and I'm not going to be terribly subtle around this, to be quite frank, quite a lot of them seem quite anodyne, for want of a better way of putting it. Actually, they're dull, and I was kind of wondering if Karen could explain the process in relation to how it is that we are. I mean, I can see here there's obviously a short paragraph of an explanation. It's beside a place called Woodlands, so we'll call this Wood. Well, how did Woodlands get its name? And I think, you know, there's an opportunity, and it's something that we perhaps are losing, and that we have some wonderful townland names. The Alder Road in itself has existed for very, very many generations, and it was there long before Woodlands, I'm sure. And it's just one of those things, you kind of look at it, you think, that's it, it's anodyne, it's boring, it's dull. Can we not come up with things that are, you know, we've got some fantastic names, townland names that go back centuries in this city and district. And I'm just not so sure there's an awful lot of thought put into the naming of new estates by developers in particular. I don't mean that as a criticism of developers, but perhaps it's one of the things that they don't really consider that important. I don't know. I would just like to take a view across the board from everybody on this. I think we could be perhaps a bit more imaginative sometimes. Thanks, Chair. That's me.
Thanks for that, Councillor Boyle. Alderman Hussey on the same item.
Yeah, same item, Chair. Thank you. It's with regard to the second application, Beachmount Village. I can understand the Beachmount. The village fluxes me a wee bit because, of course, the Adria factory site is within the curtilage of Strabane town. Could officers perhaps expand on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Karen, I'll pass you back on, I suppose, on those 2 points from Councillor Boyle and Alderman Hussey.
Yeah, and Chair, unfortunately, I don't have the officer who does these particular applications here today. So I haven't got the detail that members would like. I do know that the officer will assess the applications that come in from developers in association with our policy. Members, if it would be helpful, I could perhaps ask for a further report to be brought back in February to address these points specifically, so members can explore that particular policy. And indeed, members, if you want, if you're happy with perhaps the first one but not the second one, then we can ask for further information to come back in relation to that. That's no problem. I'll take a steer from members on that.
Thank you, Karen. Members, any comments on that? Councillor Boyle.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to reiterate again, obviously as the member who raised it, I do think it would be useful for us all to revisit the policy, to see if there is indeed any way that we can perhaps make things a bit more interesting, because ultimately people live in these places and they may well appreciate that some thought has gone into the streets and the environments that they live in and the naming of them. I mean, like, it's perhaps a bugbear of mine, Chair, but it goes back many years, to be honest with you. I look around the city and district, and there are housing developments named after, you know, you'd almost think you were in Chelsea or Kensington. Some of them are named after places that, to my mind, have no connection to our city and district. And there must be, in some cases, opportunities to name things that would have historical connection to the place that we live in and the place that we are, and yes, this is who we are. But again, I would welcome the opportunity to look at that policy.
Yeah, and Chair, just through you, members, to reassure you that you know, the policy does advise that there has to be a connection to the place. It's not particularly very specific, and it is left to developers to come forward, and certainly clearly as today, and it's useful to have these discussions, members are perfectly within their rights to say no, we aren't happy with the name that's proposed, and I know, members, that has happened at previous committees before, so certainly more than happy to bring a report back next month. And members, just in terms of the recommendations today, we will need a recommendation, I suppose, in relation to both 5.1 and 5.2. If you want to defer both of them, members were happy to do so, or indeed we can approve both or defer one. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. Alderman Hussey, you had raised the issue around the second development there. Have you any comment to make regarding the deferral, or?
I would actually defer that to representatives from, who cover the Sperrin town there. I mean, it was just a query. It seemed odd to me to call up this a village when it lies within a town. But if people are content with it, well and good.
Is there any Sperrin representative wishes to maybe contribute to the debate around it? There's nobody indicating, so I don't see it as a burning issue for them anyway. So
it's their area, so that's okay, Chair.
Yeah. Well,
Chair John here again, just briefly. Look, I see no. I mean, again, I'm not a Sperrin representative, but just for the benefit of those who are not perhaps city representatives, and there are Ballyarnett representatives on this meeting. We do have a Ballyarnett village within the city here. I don't think it creates any great degree of confusion. So if that's of any benefit to Alderman Hussey, look, I have no problem proposing the two that are in front of us right now, if nobody else has a difficulty with them. But as I said, my concern was really, how we perhaps give more of an opportunity to recognise the history of a place. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, just a quick comeback on Councillor Boyler. I would imagine that Ballyarnett village existed and the city expanded and took it in, as opposed to this one, which is, it's an area within the town. It's a former factory site within the town. Strange. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Well, you know what, Chair, just again, I'll just interrupt there briefly. I'm not sure about that, Alderman Hussey. There may be others that would know better than me. I see Councillor Tierney nodding his head. So I do know that the current Ballyarnett village is quite modern.
Okay, members, I'm kind of reading this that the committee's satisfied to endorse the current proposed names on this occasion. Also with the caveat that Councillor Boyle has made regarding, maybe bringing back a report, Karen, to the next meeting regarding how better council can get these places or suggestions for these places which are more relevant, I suppose, to the area. So the proposal has been proposed and seconded there, members. So are members content with that course of action? That we bring back a report next month, and happy enough to endorse the current proposals? Yeah.
Agreed, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, members. Karen, were you looking in there?
No, Chair, I'm happy to do that, and potentially, members, we could develop, I suppose, additional guidance for developers on this if members believe that will be useful following your consideration of the policy next month. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Thanks, members. Members, item 9 to 16 is open for information. However, if any member wishes to make a comment, we'll just go through them here. Item 9 is the building control applications. Item 10, any member wish to raise anything under item 10? Item 11, we have Councillor Alderman Hussey, item 11.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the report, officers. Some of the issues that arose with this policy, quite a few of them actually arose from my perspective, that I was contacted by electors throughout the area in regard to the use of the policy within graveyards. And there were some who were expressing concern that there was a certain amount of disrespect to their relatives, etc., who would have been buried in these, and they were still visiting these graves, even though some of the sites may have officially been closed. but people were still visiting their relatives. So I'm trusting that that is taken on board, and indeed that if further concerns arise as the policy develops, that there can be a quick response to ensure that respect is shown to those whose remains are located in these various graveyards. I understand the rationale of the scheme, but we must be mindful of the feelings of folk. I'll use an expression that was used by one of the people who contacted me, and it was one that my late mother would have constantly used. She would like to see the place kept, Protestant looking, excuse the expression, but it's one that some people have used, as my late mother used it. And I've also heard the same expression as Christian looking. So, that respect must be included within the policy going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor O'Neill, you also wanting to comment on this item?
Yes, Chair, thank you. No, it was just to say, I think the report is great, and I think it captures the great work that this policy and this campaign really has done, and I think it does acknowledge the points that Councillor or Alderman Hussey has raised. I think it does address that within the report. But I think the feedback that I've had from a lot of people on the campaign is, they want it more. Like, there's areas where members of the community are like, why are they mowing there when they have this campaign? So I think that's very positive feedback, where people have seen it and they like it, and they want it rolled out in more areas. So I just wanted to give that feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Could I bring in Connor maybe to comment on this?
Yeah, thanks for that, Chair. And obviously, we're extremely mindful of the issues raised, particularly with regard to cemeteries and those who regularly go to pay their respects to loved ones, and certainly we'll take that on board. And if members are aware of any that haven't been brought to our attention, then bring them direct to myself, and we'll deal with them immediately. And as Councillor O'Neill says, that we're trying to strike a balance between where we can do it and it's appropriate, and there's tangible benefits to be got. And as Alderman Hussey has referred to, those who would like to see things maybe a bit more orderly and presentable, and we certainly work with members and with families to ensure that we do that right across the city and district.
Okay, thanks for that, Connor. Members, we'll just go back to item 10 there. Councillor Doyle, you wish to address item 10. Go ahead, Emmett.
Thank you, Chair. I probably should have just dropped an email about this, Karen, but I totally forgot. The maps on the report aren't great. I'm wondering if maybe we could get those sent out again. Looks like just they've been photocopied, and the exact sites on them just aren't very clear. So I'm wondering if we could just get clear pictures on them, please, if at all possible. Thanks.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, happy to recirculate those to the committee members and all members, I suppose, as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Karen. Item 12, members. Item 13. 14.
Item 13.
Go ahead. Item 13, was it?
It is, Chair. I was concerned when I read that report. Obviously, this is something that's we're very conscious of in terms of the increasing energy cost over the past, particularly 18 months, I suppose. But there is a significant uplift expected within the new contracts that we're going to be tendering for in the next short while. And I'm just wondering, what kind of provision has been made? Has provision been made within, because the rates estimates process? Because I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be able to absorb those kind of increased costs just from the regular spend from the department. So it's not there in the report, and I was just wondering if it could be expanded on a wee bit. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, if you're happy, I can come in and address that to members, just to reassure you that Alfie has been considering this and made provision for increased energy and utilities costs. I think that that's what he's referred to in your papers in relation to rates, and certainly we're very mindful of the need to work, I suppose, across councils and indeed with central government increasingly in relation to this issue to ensure that local government gets the most competitive prices. Certainly share members' concern in relation to this issue, and just to reassure members that we're doing the best that we possibly can, both to make provision for this, but also to get the best value for public money in relation to it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Karen. Members, item 14. 15. Councillor Neil, you've indicated there for item 16.
Yes, Chair, thank you. So I suppose my understanding from the document is that, you know, because if it's in open for information rather than open for decision, that we aren't going to make a decision on the peer review until the new financial year, or can we make a decision about it and then it can proceed in the new financial year? So it's just a question on that, because you know, I think for me as a councillor, I would like to be well informed in making these decisions around how we best collect and move forward in how we manage our recycle and our waste. And you know, if there's two conflicting reports, it makes it very difficult then to make that decision. So I think the peer review is really essential in informing me and making a good decision for the households and the citizenry, really. So yeah, so I just want clarification, you know, on, you know, can we approve this and wait until the new financial year, or does the decision have to be deferred until the new financial year? Thank you.
Chair, do you want to maybe perhaps bring in all the other members in relation to this, and then we'll take all the points together, if that's okay?
Yeah, Councillor Jackson.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor, or thanks, Chair, and I would tend to agree with the previous speaker in terms of it is a very strange position that for us as a committee and as members to be in, to have two conflicting reports. And as we move forward, I think the more clarity we can receive, the better. And whenever when we first discussed the peer review from RAP, I went on and started looking at some of the other reports that RAP had been carrying out, and I seen that RAP, in conjunction with DERA, had conducted a report around the recycling potential across the north in 2020, and there was also a consultation paper that RAP were involved with, again in conjunction with DERA, around future recycling and separate collection of waste. And I fully accept and agree with the previous speaker around the importance of testing the information that's been presented to us. But when we're talking about value for money, and we're talking about I suppose getting the best value for money from our ratepayers, or for our ratepayers, I think we should seek out other, or if there may be relevant information on this subject that could be out there without having to pay the figures that's been presented in this report. So I was going to suggest that a report is brought back around similar reports that have been carried out by RAP in conjunction with DERA, and for that to be explored, to see if there's any information that can be taken from that just before before we explore the route of the peer review. That being said, I think we should always reserve the right. The peer review, the Taggart report that was presented, it's a few months ago now. So, but I think just before we take that decision, it would be useful to get all the information that's available to us, almost free of charge, before we commission the services of RAP that's suggested in this report. But I'm happy to hear the response from officers on this. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Chris, and I know Connor wants to come on this item, so we'll just take Alderman Ramsey, and then maybe Connor wants to come on then.
Thank you, Chair, and Councillor Jackson's kind of covered the issues that we would have as well. I'm actually glad that there's not a decision been made in this today, because our party were not in a position to actually support this possible spend. And as Christopher said there, a lot of this information is already out there. We've already spent quite a bit of money, and yes, there's conflict information, but there is a number of issues. Number one is obviously the cost to a ratepayer and protecting our ratepayer, and yes, the best we can get for recycling going forward. Now, one thing I would look at it and the reports that are coming hopefully back, based on other ones, the report based on other RAP surveys, whatever, is that we have a breakdown of our own issues with regard to bins being contaminated, because we are getting better and better and better what we're doing at the minute. So not only are we having a brilliant success with recycling currently, and it's already been muted, although there's people saying it isn't. But the report, I would like it included that, where we are, what percentages we are with issues with our current recycling situation as well. And definitely concur with both of the previous speakers that we do need to, continue looking at this. But from well, on behalf of our ratepayers at the minute, our party wouldn't be in a position to support the possible spend of £18,750 maximum. So just to say that we welcome the report, and we look forward to the further reports now that we hopefully will have coming back. And thank you very much to our officers, as usual, for the work and effort they have been making, and our staff over the years in our recycling throughout the city and district. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And just before I bring Connor in, just for the minute, there's a declaration of interest there from Councillor Neil as a member of the Zero Waste Northwest. Connor.
Chair, I see Councillor Tierney has indicated. Do you want to bring Councillor Tierney in first?
Yeah, go ahead then, Councillor Tierney.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Connor. And Chair, I will be quick. I think we all agree, and even from previous reports, we all agreed that it's vitally important that we, as a council, are ensuring that we are getting the best value for money in terms of our curbside collection. We also have no issue, like previous speakers, have no issue with carrying out a peer review. But again, like other speakers, it's the cost and where we're going to find the money for that review to be carried out. I'm interested to hear from officers to see if there is another way of doing this, as opposed to spending a maximum of £18,750. And if officers feel that there's another way to do this, or there's someone else who may be able to do it, I think that's something that we should be considering. But if that's not the case, where are we planning to get the budget for this? Is there budget scenario planning going on within the department within the directorate, or is this something which we will see being lumped on to the rates estimates within the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Chair, I'm happy to just update members. As had been mentioned there, DERA have commissioned RAP to do some work. Now that began some time ago, but obviously it has been delayed because of obvious reasons around COVID. Now, more recently, again, those meetings have kicked off, and it's across the region. It's across all 11 councils, and it's looking at collection methodology and options, and the costs of switching from current arrangements to other arrangements, and that would include a box system. So it may well be that members want to defer this for now to let that process to go ahead. There was to be a further workshop this month with councils then to provide information back through DERA to RAP to do some further analysis on this. But as I say, for obvious reasons, that's been delayed. But the work will continue, and at the back end of that will be a report on by council in terms of what the impacts of switching from one system to another will be. Benefits, disbenefits in terms of recycling and costs and so on, and that may be one way of kind of validating the information in the previous reports without council having to go to that expense. Now, to say it won't happen immediately, but it is planned to do this work over the next number of months, and I say that may be the vehicle that allows members to, I suppose, test the previous reports and provide assurances one way or other.
Thank you for that, Conor. Does any other member wish to comment on this item?
Just Chair, would you need a proposal just that we defer?
Yeah, Chair, through you, Chair, I think that it would be very useful to get a steer from members on that, and in terms of it, and certainly, you know, just to address, I suppose, Councillor O'Neill's point from the very start that should members want to approve spending next year, then certainly that could be a decision that everyone could take today, and again, addressing Councillor Tierney's points, we would endeavour to find the budgets through savings within next year's budget. But members, you are also welcome to decide to defer this, as Conor said, for the ongoing work to conclude, and then that we bring a report back to members in a few months in terms of an update for members. And of course, members, at that stage, you are welcome to decide that you may want to commission this peer review yourself. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. I'm going to bring in Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. And just on the back of what Conor has advised, we believe that the best course of action would be to defer a decision on this, to defer a decision on the peer review until we see the outcome of the work that's carried out by DERA and RAP on the exact same issue. And again, it's come back to the very same issue that Councillor O'Neill talked about around having all of the information in front of us and when we're taking a decision. So whilst reserving the right to carry out a peer review down the line, I think it's only we should defer the decision to do so until we've got all the information. So I just see that Alderman Ramsey's proposed that. I'm more than happy to second it on behalf of Sinn Féin. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for that, Chris. Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you. And like Councillor Jackson and Alderman Ramsey, we're happy to go away at deferral today as well, because we do think it's important that there's a peer review, but we think it's important that all of the information is before us when that's happening. Chair, this may have already been asked and most likely answered by officers, but I'm just wondering, in relation to the Northwest Regional Waste Management Group, is there anything that the two councils could do in relation to this piece of work to see if the peer review was being carried out? Could they work together and bring down the cost of that piece of work? I'm just unsure, Chairman, if that possibility, if that is a possibility and if it's been explored. Just a
Yeah, I
thought.
can answer that. It hasn't been considered at this point, but certainly it can be taken forward through the Northwest Group if members want to consider that.
Thanks for that, Connor. I think it's important that we do consider the peer review, obviously, and I think it's also important that we try to get the cost of that peer review down. So I think it's something, if that's a possibility through the Northwest Regional Waste Management Group, I think that's something that we should also consider whilst we're going through this process and whilst this item is being deferred. Maybe those figures could come back, and that might make it a different conversation whenever that piece of work is carried out. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Connor.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Connor, for that information, and to Karen as well. Yeah, I'm content to defer at the moment, but just to reflect on, this has been a long journey. From when Eunomia was commissioned to do the work on the strategy, and that was a £44,000 report done by Eunomia back in 2017, and council put £20,000 into that. DREP put 20,000, and 4,000 was put in kind by Zero Waste Northwest at the time, and I think that so then obviously in looking at implementing the different options that were contained within that strategy, we put further money into research there, and that research is was totally in conflict without it completely contradicted the Eunomia report with any reference that it did contradict it, and it's just it's been a long enough frustrating journey, and I think these are just really incredibly important decisions in terms of the income that our council can generate from the resources that our households are producing, and there is best practice evidence in Europe which would support the Eunomia report, but then there's the local realities on the ground here, which again the Eunomia report felt would our council could make money from source separation, but the Taggart report contradicted that. So it's just again I'm keen to hear what RAP have to say with their data research, and I'm keen to progress a decision on this. My question is, does this have any implications on current waste contracts? Are we going to be tied into any waste contracts that a deferred decision for, I don't know how long it might be, a few months, or it might be another year? Would there be any implications in terms of our waste management contracts?
Chair, happy to deal with that again. Part of the review that will be taken forward will look at changes in legislation, including, for example, DRS deposit return schemes and enhanced producer responsibility, and look at the impact of those on collections and services and potentially funding streams for that. So I think it would be, it won't have any impact, certainly in the short term, but once the RAP report is complete, it will have a roadmap in terms of where we're going, in direction of travel, and possible funding sources that might allow things to change in the future. But there's a way to go yet, and I think it would be prudent just to wait until that piece of work had been done. And I suppose it's just to say as well, that's across all 11 councils, so it wouldn't just be that we would have a report that would look at our costs in isolation. It would look at the costs across 11 councils in terms of making these changes. And again, that may be a better benchmark, I suppose, in allowing us to compare costs from where we are today in turn, and then looking at what that might be moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Connor. Members, Councillor Ramsey has proposed to defer it. Has been seconded by Councillor Jackson. I'm sensing, members, that the committee is content with that course of action. So, members, can we take that as unanimous? Yeah, so we'll move on then to item 17. We need a proposer and seconder, first of all, to go on the seal.
Proposed, Alderman Devaney, that we move into confidential, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Maybe Karen, if you just give us the okay when.
Yeah, I think if we just wait for our IT team to advise us that we're now in confidential business. Thank you, Chair.